Welcome to another edition of Beyond Sight, where we try to look at things beyond what the eyes can see and have a better understanding of what it is that we're dealing with. So, we've been talking about awareness, that conflict really isn't about, the issue isn't about conflict. The issue really is about awareness. And we got three people we're going to talk about today who actually keep this conflict situation going. And you, as a person who's dealing with it or recognizing it, would then know who this person might be and what it is that you can do to kind of get beyond some of the things that they bring into your life, the drama, if you will, that they may bring into your life. So these three people are the blamer, the escalator, and the controller. Now, you already hear it, right? So you already know what this is going to look like, right? So let's jump into it. So you ever dealt with somebody who seems to never take accountability for anything? I mean, anything. They are right about everything. You are wrong about everything. Right? I want you to think about that for a minute. And maybe this might even be you. I'm hoping that you're honest enough to kind of, understand it. This might be you. But you ever dealt with that person? It's like when you're having an issue with them and what they do is blame you for the issue that you may be having, or they always, somehow or another, the blame gets shifted back to you. When you bring up an issue with them, say, you're in a relationship with them or you're at work with them or something, you're explaining to them like, hey, you did this wrong. This crowd wasn't, well, I wouldn't have did it wrong if you would have just did this right here. The only reason I did it wrong is because you didn't give me what I need in order to do it, or you didn't explain it to me clear enough, or it was something that you were doing or did not do, that then they're blaming you for a situation. They don't take any accountability whatsoever. And so how you deal with that is okay, I'm hearing that, I'm hearing your concerns and when you bring it up, but this is what I would like for you to do in that. Because the idea here is for all three of these people is not to engage them on the levels in which they are actually trying to get you to engage with them in, right? The main idea, if I can't say anything else, I'm giving to you this at the beginning, dang near at the beginning of this podcast, right? Is don't engage with them on the level in which they are seeking to engage you on. If you can remember that, you got this game about half lit. I'm going to tell you. But that means you have to stay aware of where you are, right? You have to stay aware of what it is that you're doing, positioning that you are in, and what's taking place with you and what's taking place around you with them, the atmosphere around you, the environment around you, all that. You have to stay aware, right? If you don't have awareness, you're going to jump into that rabbit hole right with them. And that's where they want you to. All three of these positions want you to engage with them, because once you start engaging with them, you already losing because they know where they're going. You follow him, and that's the dangers of a rabbit hole. The lead rabbit know where they're going, and they're doing them but throwing dirt back in your face while you can still follow them around, right? And so they're keeping the dirt out their face and throwing it back in your face, right? I want you to kind of look at that and see that, right? This is what the rabbit hole looks like, right? So, number two, this is a kicker for real, right? the one who escalates. You ever had a conversation with someone and it's really a small situation, right? And then next thing you know, they just blow it completely out of proportion, right? They are, it's just a small thing, and then now everything in the world is got dumped in on this whole situation. They start dumping this and dumping that, and it's just, hey man, just when you walk past, when you walk past an aisle, like someone's at work, some of my people who are at work, and you're dealing with people who don't really pick up. I know my wife, always, talk about people who just walk past stuff at the job and things of nature there, right? And so, as a fix it, find it, fix it, don't ignore it, right? That was kind of things that she would say. Find it, fix it, don't ignore it, right? And they'll just walk right past. And some of my kids do the same thing. You got something sitting in the middle of the floor, and they even left. They the one who dropped it there, and they just walk right past it, right? They'll walk past it 3 or 4 times. And are you going to ever pick up the sock? Are you going to ever pick up them pants that you just left there in the middle of the hallway? They just walk right past it. Just walk right past it. You got people who then escalate a situation. It's a small situation. You pick up something on the floor. You always trying to make me to do something. You're always trying to do this. You always got something to say to me. You keep picking on me all the time. You always saying something. And they want to go to management and say this person's picking on them. They bullying them. And that's the catchword of the day, bully, right? Everybody's getting bullied, right? And so they go into the management and saying, they always bullying me. They're always trying to talk, always messing with me, always got something to say to me, right? And when they're really not doing their job, right? They're really not doing their job, doing what they're supposed to do. And so how do you deal with a person that would escalate a situation? Well, I can say this one's pretty tricky, right? Because in a sense, it really never matters. It doesn't matter what you do. It's always going to escalate. They have the attitude to always send it up a little higher than what it actually should be. And you can't be afraid of saying what it is that you need from them. But once you say what it is that you need, leave it alone and have them do the job. If they don't do the job, then, it's a matter of how you properly escalate it, right? If that might be, because at some point it becomes insubordination to a degree, right? And so, on failure to follow instruction, right? And so you want to be able to make sure that you are clear about your instructions, that you don't have any emotions in the instruction. You know that you're dealing with a high conflict person, a personality, a person who loves to escalate things. And so what you want to do is make sure that when you are clear about what the instructions that you're given, that you're not afraid of being able to give instructions. It's going to escalate. So when it does escalate and they're going to management and saying this about you or going around talking about you, don't get pulled into the rabbit hole again, because at that point they're the lead rabbit, right? And they're doing nothing. If you jump in that hole with them, they're going to do nothing but keep doing dirt on your face, putting dirt in your face, right? And so, okay, let's look at a person who's in a relationship. And then you're seeing someone escalate. You got a partner who loves to escalate something. They blow things out of proportion, right? And it's not a situation where you, as a person, is trying to do anything to them. You're just expressing a concern, right? And everybody has concerns. Nobody is 100% correct in anything that they do, right? But you got a lot of people who are ultra sensitive out here, and they wear their emotions on their sleeve. Is everything is going against them, or you always want to do this to them, or you never give them any credit about anything, and it's always something. The only thing you asked was, can you please pass me the salt? Oh, something wrong with seasoning my food? My food ain't seasoned right? Or, damn, I just asked for some salt. You know, don't get caught into the thing. Well, I mean, no, your food is great. I just wanted a little more salt, right? Now, maybe you might have to just get up and get the salt yourself. Maybe, I don't know. They're gonna continue to escalate, but you don't get pulled into the escalation. Just eat your food, enjoy your meal, get up from the table, go about your business, right? And so this is how you kind of deal with that person who's escalating. You don't necessarily ignore them, but you ignore them. What that means is you acknowledge the thing that you want them to do. You ask them to do the thing that you want them to do. And after you do that, you leave the situation on. You don't go into the back and forth with them and all this other type of stuff here. I remember one time, this is a crazy situation, right? I was at a MARTA station, spot called East Point. That's when I'm working with Morehouse School of Medicine, right? And so I have to go over and get MARTA cards sometime for our participants in the program. And so I'm going to get MARTA cards. I'm doing this and doing that, right? So it was the patron, one of the passengers, and a bus driver. They was kind of having some words, right? And so it's actually two women. So, and I'm going to show you something that, I understand how it went. I can show you how she could have done it differently, but I understood what she actually did in protecting herself, right? So, the reality of it is that the passenger had no business putting her hands on the bus driver, right? Because they were going back and forth, and she in her face, and the bus driver really at this point really trying to say, get out of my face now, you got no business being in my face. You can back up. You got anything to say to me, back up and say it to me. Tell me, B, I do this, and she's very belligerent with it, and she put her hands on her, and I'm telling you a lot. It is what it is. I'm not telling anybody to do this. I'm saying this is how things can escalate. The bus driver just bum rushed her. Pop, 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 pop. And backed up against the wall, up to the wall, and had her head down and was jacking up, you know what I mean? And, I don't think the passenger was expecting old girl to come off like that when she put her hands on her, right? She thinks she's going to be. And the unfortunate thing, too, well, you can call it unfortunate, they actually locked the passenger up for putting her hand on the bus driver, right? And so the bus driver kind of knew that she had an out. I think she really kind of wanted to get at old girl anyway, right? And I'm saying this is how you can get pulled into a rabbit hole, right? And so, the fortunate part of it for her is she was able to come out on top because the girl did violate her and put her hands on her. But, violence is never the thing to play, right? Violence is never the route when you're dealing in a working environment, right? Or any environment. Violence is never really the play. Does it happen? Yeah, it does. In some instances, can it be justified? I'm sure it can be. But is it the right thing to do? No, it isn't, right? So we want to make sure that we have these understandings that, it's never acceptable to put your hands on somebody, right? That's always out the question. Putting your hands on someone is never the answer, right? And there is no such thing as where it really shouldn't be. It can be, that if somebody put their hands on you first, then, the reality of it is, the human reality of it is, all bets are going to be off, right? The professional and the logical thing to do is to remove yourself from it, right? And that's the stronger position, actually. Um, it's kind of a weaker position. It is a weaker position to engage in the battle, engage in the confrontation like that, right? The stronger position is how you walk away from it and put authorities involved in it, or whatever it may take in order for you to protect yourself, right? Um, you know, you have to really look at that situation. And so I want to make sure that we're clear, never condoning violence. That's never the case. But I'm bringing that situation up because this is how quickly that situation escalated. I mean, it was like a 1.5, 2 minute deal in between them. That like I'm standing there for a minute because I'm getting cars out of the machine, right? And I'm charging up cars in the machine too, right? So it's like they come in, I hear the ruckus, so I turn around and look, and so I'm hearing it going back, and the girl telling her, "Don't leave me alone, get out my face." And he keep going at it. And next thing you know, don't. And they she rushed her right up again, right over there, actually where I was standing, right? So I see the whole thing take place, and that's how quickly a thing escalates. And you have to have the presence of mind to make sure that you stay aware at all times, because things can get out of control very easily. Now, the reality of it is, the bus driver came out on top, but she could have easily got hurt in that situation. When you play this violence game, there's no guarantees. That's why it's not a good thing to do. There's no guarantees, right? None whatsoever. A woman jumping on her husband, a man jumping on his wife, there's really never any guarantees. That I know a multitude of people who went into a situation one way and came out of it another way, right? I mean, I had a personal experience with that, to be honest with you, even in my own life, right? Which, somebody assaulted me, then in the process, it didn't go the way they want, and I wind up doing a lot of time for them, right? So I can tell you from a personal standpoint, violence isn't a good thing, right? So I want to make sure I put that out there. The third category is one of, it's a little bit more diabolical, if you will. So you ever had somebody who felt like they had to control all aspects of a situation, where they're trying to make sure they tell you what to do, or they manipulate situations around you to make you look like you the one who's the problem? They manipulate the people who are around you, right? The people that you are coming in contact with. They're dropping, little salt pellets all over the place, all around you. These are people who are controlling, because they always want the narrative to be their narrative. And they do whatever they need to do in order to make the narrative theirs, to make people side with them, to have people side with them. They will lie. They will be deceitful. They will do a multitude of different things to make sure that the narrative stays on their side, that people stay on their side, and that people look at them a particular way. One of the things that, as a person, I understand that when one person comes to me, the other person also have an experience in a deal. So the wisdom in that is kind of hear both sides, but that's not what happens a lot of times, right? And this is why even now the internet is really kind of crazy. You see, someone like Remy Ma and Papoose and Clarissa Shields, when they were going at it on the internet. You see when things with, T.I. and 50 was going at it, and things in nature, they were really trying to put people in their corner. They're telling their thing, they're putting their spin on a situation, and they want you to be able to get in on that side, right? Um, the person who is a controlling person now is that they're trying to isolate you away from everybody else and isolate everybody else away from you to get you ostracized. And so even they will look like they're a victim in a situation, but they're actually victimizing, right? Because they are trying to control the narrative. They're not looking at a situation. I might be wrong in this situation. Where can I be wrong in this situation? Where can I do something different? Where can I meet that person's need? But what they do is they come in and they're lightweight tell stuff that you know about you, or say some things about you, or put a spin on what they call it their experience. It really doesn't be their experience, but they want people to feel so sad for them. They want, oh my God, you must be going through a hard time and all this old foolishness, right? And so because only thing, and they sit there and play the victim like, looking all sad, looking stupid, you know what I mean? And look like they're finna cry all the time or whatever. Like they just going through pure hell when they the one actually taking people through hell. Right? Have you ever seen a person experience a person like that before? Right? What you think about that? Right? And how did you deal with that? What did you do? Did you get in and call yourself, have to clear yourself out and justify or defend yourself? Because that's what really happens. When you get into those situations dealing with people like that, you naturally want to defend. Nobody like accusations thrown at them. That's one thing, right? Nobody wants to be accused of anything, right? So 4 things which will happen in this situation: they'll defend, they'll excuse, they'll over-explain, and then they'll react because the emotions become very high. It's very high in that because, of course, they feel like they're being wronged. So yeah, they finna defend their position and tell us, start excusing certain things or explaining this and over explaining that. And they try to tell any and everybody who will listen, and then they react in a way that then makes them look like, yeah, they are a problem. Yeah. And that's where it really comes into, because the reaction, I don't know how many men or people that I have had, consultations with, sessions with, and I would let them know, man, you was doing all right until you got there, right? And this is how, I was, I got caught one time like this, and this is a incarcerated story here, right? Um, I was on the dormitory, and the dormitory that I was on was considered like an honor dormitory, right? These are the good guys. And I mean, okay, I ain't telling them, I ain't trying to do all the time standing around. Hey, man, I am a man, and penitentiary is not a place for a man, okay? So I'm in, and my everyday thought is I need to be out because the world is where it's at. And I left nothing back there, all right? So I did the things that were necessary for me to be. I kept my nose clean. I went through all type of trades and got trades. I was a fire department. I did a lot of things that, built me up as a person. I finished school in there. I went to start going to college before they took it out. A lot of things that I started my life there to kind of transition. Once I got home, I came home, I was able to kind of jump into what it is that I was able to do and to be at the position that I'm at right now. All that really started there, right? But I was kind of always a little hot, though, a little hot-head about certain things, right? Especially when I felt like I was right, right? So we just had somebody, we call them dorm orderlies, right? We call them housemen, but they're really dorm orderlies. It was clean up the dorm, stuff like that. So, but the place that we was in, the dormitory was in, we had like a game room up there, pool tables up there, and all type of stuff like that, weight room up on the dorm, and all this old type of stuff here, right? Where most dormitories have nothing near that. because at the end of the day, you really are talking about these things are weapons, all right? And so, you don't want to put nobody in a bad spot to where they can be killed by something that you placed on the dormitory, right? So, you know, the dorm, or at least I always want to clean up the activity areas. And that's what that place was sparkling clean. Some back in the dormitories, they don't sweep the dormitories, right? I had dust up under my bed for days, right? And matter of fact, I laid a little trap. I put a little piece of paper, it's very small, up under my bed, right, to see if they clean it up. And so I was talking to one of the guys I counted as OG at the time. I looked up to, and he's a little older than me, obviously. And he was talking. He said, "Man," I said, "when we have this dorm meeting, I'm gonna say something." He said, "Yeah, man, but make sure you say it right, though. You know, I don't want you." And this is when I first started hearing this word passion, right? I don't want your passion to overtake the mission that you kind of be on, that you're going to be on, right? So we on the dorm, right? This is a crazy story, right? And I'll show you how I got caught, because they were wrong, but I was wrong on how I dealt with it. How I reacted. And so they went to talking, I went to brought it up. Then they started making these excuses and all this other type of stuff here. And that they was doing something there. I just exploded. I just went off, right? And I see my guy sitting over there first when I was talking. He's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then when I exploded, I just see him drop his head. You know what I mean? Like, God, he messed up. And at that point, I was gone, right? And now I'm telling the truth about a situation, but guess who got put off the dorm, right? I get put off the dorm, right? Days later, they transferred me to a whole nother dormitory because I was doing something unbecoming of being on that dormitory. Not that they wasn't cleaning up, but because I showed an emotion that I exploded. I didn't handle myself correctly, right? This is what that rabbit hole looks like. When you are following somebody who's actually trying to control the narrative, and you are then trying to explain, and you start reacting to that, the person who winds up getting caught is you, right? The person who winds up getting in trouble is you. It never ceased to fail. Yeah, it never ceased to. The example of it is consistent. If you don't see the person who passed the first lick and then you pass it back, they're gonna catch you for assault, right? Or and I know on basketball court, he's getting fouled. I just got somebody got fouled, kind of fouled him back. They're gonna catch you for the foul. And you see the man just shoot me elbow. No, but I saw you shot the elbow. You know what I mean? And so this is when you start have to have an understanding that you can't dive in that. When you are on point, you need to stay on point. And if it doesn't go the way you wanted to go because they are controlling or they manipulated the situation, do know that they had already set that manipulation piece up long before you even said anything. Right? So you coming in to try to say something, be cool, but if you see it's not going your way, going where it's supposed to do, just back up out of it. And maybe start doing your documentation. If you're in a situation or you're at a work related situation, documentation is key. That is one surefire way to make sure that we call it receipts, right? That's what you say now, receipts. But documentation is receipts, right? You document situations where this took place, this didn't take place, or this took place, and things of nature there. They got to address it. Anything that's in writing, it has to be addressed. Can't get around it. If you got it in writing, it's going to be addressed, right? But if you just coming from here and you talking about it, they can easily say you making that up, right? And so if you got recordings of it or anything like that, now I'm saying one thing about it, you can't be recording nobody and they don't want you recording. That actually is illegal, to be recording somebody and they're not giving you permission or consent to record them. That really is illegal, right? So, as a matter of fact, if you were to try to go into a courtroom with some things that you documented for documentation of somebody being recorded, and they didn't give consent to that, you actually have a spying case, an espionage case. Believe it or not, because that's what it is, right? So you have to watch that. You know, all y'all who love to record people and love to bring your videos out and all this old type of stuff here. You know what I mean? You really have to watch how you do that. There's a way to do it and there's a way not to do it. And this is not the video for that, but I really would encourage a lot of you out there to make sure that you find out how that because even people who are not on work today, you recording somebody and you having a conversation with somebody and you secretly recording, you got the phone in your pocket, you got the phone turned down, and you know you recording somebody and whatnot, that is actually illegal. I've had people send me recordings of situations and they didn't know. I asked, did that person know that you were recording them? Nah, they didn't know. I just recorded it. I was deleted immediately from when they send it to me. I would delete it immediately because I then too, if I'm listening to it and I'm dealing with it, I too would be in trouble because I'm using information. I got information that was not consented to, right? And so, and if you feel like somebody is recording you, main thing I would tell, I do not give consent to be recorded. You know, that's a surefire way that people have to turn that stuff down and turn it off. I do not give consent at any time to be recorded. And if you are recording me, you need to send me that recording or anything at this moment. You need to send me any recordings that you have of me without edits or anything in nature there if you are recording me, right? And so I'm saying this surefire way so you can make sure that you are, one, not being recorded, and somebody is recording, you have a copy of the recording. But a person who's manipulating and controlling the situation, if you are then find yourself in a situation where it can then escalate, because here's what's going to happen with the person who's controlling. They're actually doing both of those other two categories of personality that I was talking about earlier, the blaming and the escalating. If they control them, they're going to actually use those two areas as well, right? And this is a person who used all of it, right? And really, is the person can be one and the same with the whole situation. I'm just saying how you then don't get pulled into that. You have to stay aware. You have to stay aware of where you are, what's going on around you, who you dealing with, and do not get pulled into anything that they have going on. Don't get pulled into them shifting blame on you. When you don't have to wear something that don't belong to you, but you don't have to keep speaking on it either. You just, this is my point. This is my position. I'm done with that. Right? Somebody who's escalating, they can escalate all in their own, but if you escalate with them, then you the problem too. Right? And more likely when they escalate, they're going to start crying. They're going to start boo-hooing. Like, here comes the controlling piece now, because now they're trying to control the narrative. Right? And when that situation takes place, you're going to either feel sorry for them, you go, oh, okay, and I was wrong, and all this old type of stuff here, because they want you to wear that, and or they want everybody else around you to blame you so you can wear it, so they don't have to wear it. Because that's the main objective. They don't want to wear anything. They don't want that, and they are trying to make sure that they don't take any fault about anything. Right? So I just want to pull up in here today, show you how to look at these three people or these three personalities, right? Because this personality can be all in the same person, right? And I want you to identify when have you ran into that person, right? And you can leave comments on this if you like. If you like to share with that, leave comments how you engaged that person, how that person engaged with you. please don't use people's names and things of that nature there, because they say, well, my husband, or my wife, and all of my ex-wife, and people know your ex-wife, know your husband. You're starting a little drama for yourself, right? That's not what we're here for, right? And so, if you like to share on how you was, or if you want to anonymously inbox or whatever, we can share that as well. We can do that as well. And so, just kind of getting that off your chest, talking about how it happened to you. You can do that, and we welcome that, right? So, again, beyond sight, dealing things beyond what we can see, where we dig a little deeper. You have to dig a little deeper, because this is what's been keeping us caught up. The surface stuff has been keeping us caught up, and this is how we are not winning. When I say winning, Stephen Covey wrote in one of his books, 7 Habits of Influential People. He said, it's always about, basically paraphrasing, negotiating a win-win situation, right? And seeking to understand before being understood. Those 2 things that I walk with a lot. And so when you are then negotiating a win-win situation, we both win. If you're in a relationship, it shouldn't be a winner and a loser when it's a husband and wife, or it's a wife and a husband. It should be the team, the relationship win. If you're at the job supposed to win, because you're there to do a job, and create, a pleasant environment, a harmonious environment in the workplace. And so the idea is, how do you cultivate the culture of negotiating win-win situations? That's what this is all about, how we negotiate that culture, and we build that culture, right? So you can find me on any platform under Hasan Clay Experience. That's YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. Of course, on Facebook, I'm under Hasan Clay. And by all means, please continue to join, subscribe, share this podcast, if you will. And let's grow this thing. Let's make this thing happen. All right. LinkedIn, you can find me there also as Hasan Clay on LinkedIn, if you're looking for me there, because I got some of my executives and some of my HR directors out here too. If y'all looking for me, that's where you can find me at. I'm there, and I'm here, and I'm willing, I'm ready to work with you. Right. And so with that, we'll see you again next week. Y'all have a great week and a pleasant weekend, and to see you here